Welcome back to the channel, you guys. We have to start right at the top with the absolute biggest bombshell of the week. Paulina Price is stepping up to expose the doctor, and Chanel's last-minute decision is about to change absolutely everything. Can you believe it? I mean, we all knew that Chanel DiMera's breast cancer diagnosis was going to be a devastating storyline, especially with her being pregnant, but the way this is playing out is just blowing my mind. From Chanel's perspective, this was never just about a medical diagnosis. This is about her life, her unborn child's life, and her fundamental right to be heard as a patient. She sat down with Dr. George, desperately hoping to get some clarity about what comes next, and instead, she left feeling like her deepest, darkest fears were barely even registered. It's absolutely infuriating, and honestly, it makes my blood boil just thinking about it. Let's be real for a second. When you are hit with the C word and you are carrying a child, your entire universe shatters. You need compassion. You need a doctor who is willing to sit down, hold your hand, and walk you through the nightmare. But what does Chanel get? She gets Dr. George. This guy treats the entire situation like she is just another item on his daily to-do list. It's clinical, it's cold, and it is entirely inappropriate for a young mother facing a life or death crisis. I absolutely hate the way he handled her case. It reminds me of the dark days of Salem medicine. No, I'm not talking about Dr. Rolf's mad science, because at least Rolf had passion. I'm talking about those arrogant, old-school doctors who think their medical degree makes them untouchable gods. Remember how Dr. Daniel Jonas used to treat his patients with so much extreme empathy? Dr. George is the exact opposite of that, and it is driving Chanel away from the very treatment she desperately needs to survive. And this terrible bedside manner is exactly what sparks the massive, week-long conflict between Johnny and Chanel. You guys, it has been exhausting to watch them argue, hasn't it? But if we look closely at the psychology here, it makes perfect sense. Johnny and Chanel have spent the entire week bickering because they are hyper-focused on two completely different concerns. Johnny is absolutely terrified of losing the love of his life. He is looking at the cancer as an enemy that needs to be eradicated immediately, at any cost. Chanel, on the other hand, is driven by fierce maternal instinct. She is looking at the baby. Every time Chanel brings up her fears about how the chemotherapy will affect her unborn child, Johnny immediately pivots to talking about the cancer and saving her life. They are running in circles, speaking two entirely different languages. It's actually crazy how much Johnny is acting like his parents right now. Think about it. He has that frantic, fix-it-now energy of Sammy Brady, mixed with the bulldozing, I know what is best for you arrogance of DiMera. Johnny means well. I really believe that. I love Johnny, but he is completely failing his wife right now because he isn't listening to the words actually coming out of her mouth. Every conversation turns into a debate. Chanel talks about feeling dismissed. Johnny talks about starting chemo. Chanel talks about the risks. Johnny talks about survival. They just go round and round until nobody is actually talking about the same thing anymore. It's a classic soap opera miscommunication, but grounded in such raw, realistic human trauma. By the end of the week, Johnny looks completely drained, Chanel is emotionally exhausted, and honestly, we the viewers are exhausted right along with them. But here's the kicker, and this is what so many people in Salem and even some fans are completely misunderstanding about Chanel. Chanel never once said that she was going to refuse treatment forever. She never said she planned to just ignore the cancer and hope for a miracle. A lot of fans think she is just being stubborn and risking her life for no reason, but I actually think she is being incredibly brave and rational. What Chanel has been saying on repeat is that she wants answers. She wants someone to look her in the eye, acknowledge the massive risks to her baby, and explain exactly what the path forward looks like. Instead, everyone around her is determined to argue with a stance she hasn't even taken. She isn't anti-treatment. She is anti-being ignored. Thank goodness for Paulina Price. Seriously, somebody give Jackie Harry an Emmy for this storyline because she is delivering pure gold. Paulina steps into this chaotic, toxic situation and does the one thing that absolutely nobody else has managed to do all week. She actually listens. And I don't mean she just stays quiet for 30 seconds waiting for her turn to speak. Paulina truly deeply listens to the pain and frustration in her daughter's voice. We have to remember the incredible growth Paulina has shown over the years. She completely dropped her own massive, heartbreaking drama with Abe and Lexi's resurrection just to be a solid rock for her daughter. That is true motherhood right there, putting your child's terror above your own heartbreak. Once Paulina really listens, the actual problem becomes crystal clear. Paulina realizes that Chanel's issue isn't with the chemotherapy itself. Chanel's true issue is with Doctor George. Paulina completely exposes the doctor's failure. She points out that while Dr. George might be highly qualified, clinical, and direct, his terrible bedside manner is actively harming Chanel's mental health and preventing her from making an informed decision. Paulina validates Chanel's feelings, telling her that it is okay to demand better care. She exposes the flaw in the hospital's approach and changes the entire narrative. Suddenly, Chanel isn't being backed into a corner and forced to choose between her life and her baby's life. And you won't believe what happens next, because this is the turning point we have been waiting for. Paulina asks Chanel a simple, brilliant question. Are you willing to hear what another doctor has to say? That changes absolutely everything. It shifts the entire dynamic from a battle over treatment to a quest for a second opinion. Chanel didn't have to surrender her bodily autonomy. Nobody had to manipulate or guilt trip her into anything. She simply agreed to get a second opinion from a medical professional who was actually willing to answer her questions and treat her like a human being rather than a statistic. This last-minute decision is a massive game changer for the DiMera family. For the first time all week, everyone is finally on the same page. Johnny can take a breath, realizing that his wife isn't giving up on life. She just needed the right guide. I predict that this new doctor is going to offer a much more nuanced treatment plan. Perhaps something that bridges the gap between protecting Chanel's life and safeguarding the baby's development. It might even tie into some of the experimental but hopefully safer medical lore that Salem is so famous for, minus Doctor Rolf's lethal side effects, of course. We know Salem doctors have pulled off medical marvels before, and Chanel deserves one of those top-tier specialists. Going forward, I think this crisis is going to fundamentally change Johnny and Chanel's marriage. They are going to have to learn how to truly communicate, not just react out of fear. Johnny is already stepping back from the toxic DiMera CEO role to focus on his wife, and this medical journey is going to test their bond like never before. But with Paulina standing fiercely in their corner, exposing incompetent doctors and demanding the best for her family, I have hope. Salem is a town built on miracles and tragedies, but Chanel's demand to be heard is a powerful reminder that sometimes the patient knows best. I can't wait to see who they bring in for this second opinion, and I am praying it brings the healing this family so desperately needs.